Welcome back to the episode of Unranked Podcast. We have on the docket today after a little bit of a break. Football season's ended. Right now we're just um, coming up on the following week after the combine just ended. NFL free agency is starting this following Monday. So we're just sandwiched pretty much in between a lot of NFL action going down postseason, get into that off season. So start off with the combine. I'm sure everybody's heard at this point. Michigan had damn near their entire team, their starting lineup at the combine this past year. At the combine, putting on a show for everybody. And yeah, we're gonna dive in and touch on that a little bit. Touch on some of the Lions rumors that we've just been hearing about. Here and there, whether it's free agency or draft talk. And yeah, that being said, I'll kick it over to you just to kick things off. What'd you think about Michigan and yeah, how they did at the combine overall?
Yeah, no, I mean, so obviously, like you mentioned, a brief hiatus, just kind of let the end of the season wrap up. No sense in beating a dead horse, but I'm glad to get back at it. It was fun to watch some of that combine, fun to just dive in deep, learn a little bit more about some of these players, and in particular, just watch some of the guys, some of the boys we watched develop. More,
Yeah,
read about people like JJ when we didn't know if he was even going to commit to Michigan, well into this. So it's kind of cool just watch that full circle. Obviously, we would love a player like JJ to come back, but you play the game to get to the NFL, and having
right.
a first round pick quarterback is only going to help you get another future first round pick quarterback. Proving that you can produce guys in the league, and I'm not sure how many went to the combine. Probably a few hundred, but to have 18 of those, that's a good
Yeah,
sizable chunk. I believe it's the record for most ever beating LSU, the LSU 2020 team, I think, maybe
19.
2021. Yeah, by two players. And just to think that Harbaugh said this back in August that we might have 20 players at the combine.
Yeah,
That was one of the times then we're like, hey, shut up, Harbaugh. Like we don't even know what this team is yet. and
right.
but that just shows you that he knew what we had.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have probably 4 or 5 players that could have went last year come back. Players like
Mhm.
Blake Corum, players like Zach Zinner, uh, that easily could have been drafted last year, decide to come back. Some may hurt their draft stock in Zach Zinner ruining his leg. Others may have stayed about the same in a Blake Corum, but he got the job done that he wanted to do to win the championship. So
Mhm.
overall, you just watching the combine, it was it was fun to watch, exhilarating. It was thing I watched. I probably seen the little 2 minute clip of JJ's passes probably 20 times. Just try to be as subjective as possible. And I would say he was looking good. He
Yeah.
was slinging it. There was probably one bad pass I would say out of the batch I've seen. And that was one of them deep outs where it kind of hit the receiver's knees. But other than that, he was stepping back, slinging it. You could hear
Yeah.
the announcers talk about his feet work, talk about his poise. Um, and just some of the things, little minor things that I picked up. Like I was watching it, and they said Michael Penix refused to leave the line until he hit a pass. Now they would say that's leadership mentality, this and that, and then out the inverse of that, it's also better just to go out there and sling it right the first time, like JJ did,
Hmm.
and that gave me a lot of confidence to just watch him fly up these charts, draft boards. Obviously, anything's possible, but to watch him go in there, put the work in. We know that he's poised, can go answer the
Hmm.
right questions, can probably break down film like crazy on the whiteboard. Um, he was raised the right way within the program. He sat a
Yes.
lot of his freshman year, played bits and pieces, came in, earned it his second year, and then took off from there. So I think he's put the work in and developed well. So just down the line, I'm excited. And one just to speak on JJ in particular, I don't know if you know this. I didn't bring it up before, but on the 3 cone drill, JJ is like the
Yeah.
fifth. Um, that lets you know how twitchy he is. How he's up there with like top flight receivers,
Yeah.
top cornerbacks, and we're talking about a quarterback who's not even really known for running. So that just lets you know what he can do within that pocket, what he could do if a defender's near him, getting in and out of situations, and he looks to throw the ball. So all of that said, big figure, pretty strong arm, can maneuver the pocket well. I see nothing but good signs for him moving forward, and I just hope he lands in the right situation where he's
Yeah.
not necessarily thrown to the wolves. Um, he's not. I would much rather him be drafted, like we mentioned before, but somebody like the Vikings, even though I would hate for him to take the Vikings somewhere, but somebody like the Vikings, somebody like the Seahawks, where good franchises. They have the base already there. They just kind of need that guy to put them over the top. But
Hmm.
that's just to dive in on him. That's the guy that obviously gets the most praise. But I mean, you can go out online. Chris Jenkins got the job done. Another first round pick. Uh, Junior Colston, kind of under the radar, but I know as a guy who I've watched 100 different linebackers at Michigan, he's one of the better ones I've seen. He's
Yeah.
of the ilk of a Devin Bush. He's of that cloth where he's going to come and lay that wood. Just a good linebacker, and he will be
Two
somebody's
broken
line
hands.
in the NFL for 10 years. Yes. And making plays, man. Like yeah. So he's out there with two oven mitts and just living.
Laying
and
people out. Yeah.
yeah, no. So uh, you know, overall, I think this just shows you that we were one of the better teams in college football history, definitely in recent memory. Just to come that loaded. I've seen many players talk about how it felt like Schembechler Hall. Just all good signs for us.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, no, I echo a lot of that. I think I don't know, it's just interesting with JJ. 'Cause I think that's kind of like with a lot of this draft talk with Michigan kind of starts and stops with it's really just him. Um, I think there's a lot of talk around like his sample size and stats and everything, but it's just interesting to me that people won't take like playing within a system for an answer. Playing within a system is almost looked at as like, well, they must not trust them. It's like, no, when you have six O linemen, you have literally you have a six O lineman that was deemed a starter to an extent. You got, a 4-year starter at running back. He had like a top three defense, solid receivers. Um, sometimes all you're just going to be asked is do what's necessary and not have to do, more than you need to. And I think he did a great job of playing within, the offense overall. So just be curious to see, what things kind of look like for him. I'm with you. Like, I think, hopefully, he gets to a solid situation where he's not, getting thrown in the fire behind a bad old line with like no weapons, Patriots, and just kind of, set up for failure. But yeah, I mean, I think they even touch on all these other guys, like, before we jumped on here, we talk about these grades, and they all have like a 6 or higher. That's essentially where they're like, projected to be like whether it's a day one starter or, a starter at some point in their career. It just shows how they all just went out there and just tested, especially in this day and age where I don't, not guys for not doing A, B, or C drill. I think it is great for a lot of these guys that, especially might have had like Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, for example, played in a run heavy offense, not a lot of, film out there on them as far as what they can do. Some people probably think they're not great receivers, but they went and both tested well. Both, I think, ran like sub 4.40s. So I think they earned themselves a little bit of money. And then, yeah, of course, Blake Corum. I mean, that was somebody that he probably would have been flirting with being a first overall, or excuse me, first round pick last year, but got hurt, decided to come back. And yeah, he did everything I pretty much expected him to, and was able to, you know, uh, put the cherry on top by lifting as many 225 reps as like the best offensive tackle in this draft with 27. So yeah, I think it was just cool. Like I said, I had it on the background, wasn't paying a ton of attention to it, but I felt like every position group you would just hear from Michigan, so and so from Michigan. So to be represented this way at the combine was pretty cool thing to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Blake, I agree with you. It sucks that he potentially cost himself, first round pick. But also, I don't know. I don't want to speak for him, but I don't know how upset he is at that. Like,
Oh, for sure.
you made like you officially set yourself as probably the best Michigan running back of all time. You got a
Hmm.
national championship. You got the most rushing touchdowns in history.
Yep.
You set that record, I think, in the Rose Bowl versus
Yeah.
Bama. With a game-winning touchdown. So I think, it's a storybook. If you're going to come back and potentially cost yourself a first round to second round pick, this would
Hmm.
be how you think. And I seen him in a few commercials on my Facebook in particular, the Wolverine boots. I imagine he got paid a little bit too for his services throughout the year. So,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing to see the guy I do feel the worst for, and somebody that Lions should keep their eye on. Would be Zach Zenner. Zach
Yeah.
Zenner, he goes out and he doesn't get hurt. I don't want to put, that's a top 45 pick.
Hmm.
Probably first round. The heart and soul of the best O line in the country for the last 3 years. And um, I just, you know, I it's hard to excuse his impact when he went down. Just you've seen how emotional the team got, seen how emotional the stadium got, but they rallied behind. Obviously, didn't lose too much of a bump with continuing there, but I would
Yeah,
say he is stout player,
for sure.
I still see him pretty high, like second round draft pick, third round draft pick. So I think we got uh probably 5 players, 6 players that I think will probably go in the first 3 rounds. I think
Hmm.
that's going to be JJ, Chris Jenkins, Junior Colston, Zach Zinner, Blake. Probably one of the receivers. If I had to guess, probably Roman Wilson.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
I don't know if he finished this way, but well into November, he was leading the NCAA in touchdown catches.
Hmm.
Uh, it's none of those players where, I think he ran a good 40, but he's faster on the field. He's
Right.
quicker on the field. And I feel pretty confident in him making some noise in the league. Maybe needs to put his shoulder down a bit too much, but now's not the time for criticism. I just think in general, the team was loaded. I just did the math on it. So 300 players went to the combine, and we have 18 of them. That's 6% of the whole combine. Went to our so when you consider that, that's big time.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
NFL factory, and I'll be even some of the other guys. You brought up Michael Barrett or Sanders Steele, players like that. I think will particularly Sanders Steele. I think he just kind of has that it factor. He has a
Yeah,
nose for the ball. He's a smart player. He
sure.
he seems to be where he needs to be. Um, and a former not bad receiver. He wasn't like he moved from receiver to corner because he was ass. He was a solid receiver as well. So clearly has the hands. And I just think, obviously a little older player, but I think with that comes with such poise, and he'll be ready to hit that ground running. And so that's a guy I think if somebody's going to draft him for sure. But you get that guy, I think you'll quickly realize his talent was much more than that fourth or fifth round pick that you got him for.
For sure.
So I feel pretty confident that he'll be a starter in the league for quite a while too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like you said, yeah, 3 rounds, first 2 rounds. Like, I mean, I'm probably being a little aggressive here, but 7, maybe 6. So I
Yeah,
think, I don't know. I mean, I look at guys, I'm just kind of going through the line here. Obviously, McCarthy's kind of leading the pack. I mean, I can see him. Yeah, obviously, he'll go first. I think he'll go first round. I think we both feel the same way about that. Colson, second round. Wilson, second round. Jenkins, I mean, that ended up, what's so crazy about him, the NFL pedigree. Like his dad was like, a 10-year guy in the league. His uncle was like a
yeah,
13-year, guy in the league. Both, one of them won a, Super Bowl. One of them was like all pro. I mean, I think just off of that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Jenkins just snuck into like that, 28, 29, 30, back into that first round. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think,
Not to cut you off real quick. My draft I looked at earlier had him at 16th to the Seahawks.
yeah, like
Yeah,
just off of like who he, what he did, and he's a freak of nature too. Just as far as I think he came in like 230, now he weighs like 310, and he's just and the way that he can move, I wouldn't be surprised if
yeah.
he sneaks in there too.
No, I agree.
So
And him, that whole D line, because we did such a D
yeah,
line by committee, its stats are probably a little underwhelming.
for sure.
Seeing how, I mean, what I forget the exact number, but I know at one point our average defensive tackle was only doing like 25 to 30 snaps a game.
Yeah, exactly
So
what it was. Yeah,
yeah, so you consider that. I mean, that's probably half the time you could be on the field. So I mean, you
yeah,
you would almost have to double his stats
hmm,
in order to get a realistic expectation of what he could have did if he would have been
yeah,
required to be out there for the entire game versus what we were doing where we're swapping out dudes situationally, we're swapping out guys
yeah.
just to keep breathers. And
You got casually like McGregor and Harold that are down here a little bit more at the bottom. McGregor had 2 sacks at the Rose Bowl against Bama,
yep,
and Harold made the game winning pressure on the court in that Ohio game to force the interceptions. He just had like, yeah, I mean, this is like just the example of like the team, the team, the team. You just got a lot of guys that, went in there, they tested well. They didn't have, some had major roles. Some was able to do a lot with, a little, with in a small sample size, especially the D line, not, being out there all the time and running like a rotation. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more of these guys went a round or two higher than what they're expected at this point.
No, I agree. And McGregor is one of those guys, just was always there. He never got the spotlight. He never
Yeah,
was sat behind a Jabo and Hutch, and now he's
yeah,
sitting behind
senior
he's sitting
year.
behind Jenkins. And so it's one of those things where it's no fault to his own. I mean, you could be a very good player and you're just stuck behind all future all pro defensive linemen.
For
So
sure.
I think he has a lot to cook with, and I would love to see when he was on the field. He always made something happen.
For
When we
sure.
had to get a sack, he was the guy, the sack package. We rolled out there. So I think,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I definitely think he could be one of those just situational defensive linemen that you just put out there, let him pin his ears back, and go get that corner.
Absolutely.
I kind of forget about him. He's one of the kind of forgotten heroes of the squad where he just gets
Yeah.
lost in the sauce. You talk about players that aren't even in this draft, but you talk about like Mason or Kenneth Grant.
And it's
Those type of guys that always got a little more praise than somebody like him. But he's been a 3-year contributor on one of the best D lines in the country. So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'd be exciting just to see where a lot of these guys land, especially with the draft, being in Detroit. They'll get a little more love than all the other players called, that whole weekend. And yeah, I mean, it'd be dope to, I think we'll see one drafted Thursday night, possibly two drafted Thursday night. I think that'd be something, pretty cool to look forward to. And yeah, but just dominated the season,
yep.
dominated the combine. Now I think they're gonna dominate the draft. So looking forward to seeing what happens here in the next month and a half. So
Now,
yeah,
now let me
good.
ask you a question we didn't talk about. Just popped up in my head. Okay, you're JJ McCarthy.
Hmm.
You could be the third pick in the draft. You could be the 32nd pick in the draft. Are you going to the floor to get a table?
Mm. Oh no. I,
I,
I imagine
if
you
I'm
take that
if the
invite.
spread's that big on me, I don't know if I want to be Brady
Yeah,
Quinn, where my hair starts to fall and my girl leave the table, and I'm
right.
like,
That I think people like him, it might not hurt to sit at the crib and just kind of wait it out, unless somebody just tell him like, if you here at 8, coming to get you. Like it's like a
yeah.
guaranteed, like bona fide, but I feel
If
you.
my
Like if
agent's
it's
telling me I'm top 16, 15, I'm
you
probably
get the
going.
suit, you get
But
the suit and
yeah,
show up. Yeah.
yeah. No, if it's like a hey, the Patriots are kind of interested, and after that, like maybe the Seahawks, and then if it's one of them, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'd
And
rather
that's
be
one thing
closer to the
about
crib. Yeah,
yeah, one thing about the draft. I mean, a lot of them quarterback needs kind of like 16 to 20.
yeah.
That range, it can get a little weird after that. So yeah, we'll see though. There's a lot of I say about 12 teams that need a quarterback now, or maybe transitioning to needing one the next couple of years, and got a lot of options. I think he'll. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes like top 16. Wouldn't be shocked if it was top 8, honestly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, I agree with that. He's flying up the turf.
for sure. But yeah, we'll turn a page here to talk on our Detroit Lions. This is, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you enjoyed draft season quite a bit the last 3 years. Just feel like we've probably had some of the best drafts within the last 3 years. Um, yeah, I mean, just got impact players and just give a lot of credit to Brad Holmes and that staff for just continue to just find guys that can just be in like, immediate contributors, day one starters. Yeah, obviously this year, needs are going to look a little different. I'm already like kind of laughing because we're gonna sit here and talk about all the things we think they should do, and they're gonna do what they. It's probably gonna be something kind of crazy like they did last year, where it was just like all over the map. It didn't make sense at the time, but
Yeah,
I say all that to say, what would you say are needs you think they should target, and yeah, just kind of see your thoughts there.
yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's no. I think home. I don't know. I think he's one of them guys that just you never know what he's going to do.
Mhm.
He kind of has. He does seem to be playing chess, and I do need to possibly believe in this plan a little more. But literally, I wrote this down for my for the preparation. I wrote defense, 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 and then underneath I wrote correct D line linebacker. So I think we have more or less our entire offense coming back. As far as I'm concerned, our entire offense coming back. We had two rookies that hit the ground running hard last year. Jameer Gibbs almost had 1,000 yards. Laporta's quickly showing he's one of the best tight ends in the league. Uh, Jared Goff, very sound. So I think what needs to be addressed the most is that defense. Look at the last month of the season. Cowboys torched us. Vikings torched us. Rams torched us. It was one of those things where week after week, regardless of whether we squeak out a win or we got cheated in a loss or whatever, that is unsustainable to expect to win football game getting 400 yards a game on defense. You're, yeah, I agree. And that bend but don't break is cool, but I think it's one of those things where you're applying. That's when we have to think we need to go for it on fourth when we don't need to because we feel
Mhm.
like we need points. If we had a more sound defense we think we could trust a little
Yeah.
more playmaking there. I think we would be a much more well-rounded team where we could still situationally go for it on fourth when maybe it's a roll of the dice. But then either way it works because if you go for it and we don't get it, now you got a good defense to rely back
Right.
on. I think it only helps the situation. You got to get Hutch, a running mate, another guy opposite of him that's going to wreak havoc that people fear almost as much as he as Hutch. You got to. I think it is seen we're not signing Jerry Judy. CJ Gardner Johnson's probably gone. So I think we got to address the cornerbacks,
Resign
linebackers. I don't want to
Mosley.
see Anzalone out there no more. We got
Someone is Lodi out there.
no. I'll say the same thing about Angeloni as I did about Rodriguez the year before. If the defense is how it should be, Anzalone should be getting much less snaps. I think uh, Jack Campbell. I think he finished second in the league, second in on the team in tackles behind Anzalone. But I think he's proven that he's pretty solid. Let's get him out there a little more, and let's go
Mhm.
ahead and I'm only people that I know, but let's go get Junior Colson somewhere with that 61st pick, with the 73rd pick. Let's go, shore up that defense that way. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards is 1, 2, 3 probably needs to be defense, defense, defense. If there's a good lineman out there, I would not be mad about that just because I
Yeah.
think that's another thing we need to keep going is that offensive line. If we have the meanest, best offensive line out there, that 1-2 punch with running back keeps going. So that's kind of what I think defense, 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 unless you want to burn one of those, you know, 29, 61, 73, 92. Three of those four needs to be defense. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way I look, so I have like trenches and then secondary.
Yep.
So I feel because I mean there's talk about uh blanket on our starting center or Ragnow
Right.
possibly retiring. He was playing with like four different injuries and different parts, like just playing through a ton of pain last year. So I think it is probably time to we can get a guy that can play inside, a guy that can also play center, somebody that, just kind of shore up that offensive line a little bit more. Because that was one thing that was still just kind of blows my mind. We didn't have our full starting offensive line until like week 12 of
Yep.
last season and just found a way, to keep Jared Goff clean, still run the ball at a high clip with like half of our starting lineup out pretty much half of the seat, more than half of the season. So yeah, I'd say trenches. I mean, I think that's a great place to start. Specifically, I agree with you. D line. I think if we can add like an interior D lineman, or edge rusher. Excuse me. There's a couple guys that I saw myself. I'm sure Darius Robinson grew up in Southfield, went to Missouri. I saw him kick Ohio's ass. If we can get a guy like that played like, I think he played like D lineman at like 300 pounds and then got to like 285 his senior or junior year and it was moving him outside playing a little more edge rusher, just a violent, physical. And I just seen him what he was doing with them old linemen in that bowl game against Ohio. That's all I pretty much needed to see. Um,
Yep.
Buckeye killer. So I think he fits in, very well to what the Lions do. And then corner, I think I saw we re-signed Emmanuel Mosley coming off 2 ACL tears in 3 years. I'm sure this is like a bargain deal. Like I'm sure it's like a prove it. Like you get this amount of money, they're playing this many games, this many snaps, this many interceptions. Because I think he's a good player. I'm just worried that what. And I hate to say it, but after 2 torn ACLs in 3 years, like what more? How much is he still himself? I
Right.
guess he even be able to start this full season because he got hurt in October. It's like an 8 to 9 to 10 to 11 month recovery. Not sure if he'll even be fully available for the season. But yeah, even on that side of things too, we got a lot of corners. Some guy from Toledo ran a 4.38 bench
Yes.
press.
I've been seeing people talk a lot about
Yeah,
Quinion Mitchell is his name.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
So
I'm
that.
not. I'm not. He's on my little list. I got another
Mhm.
dude. You probably seen the quote, but I think I'm a butcher his first name, but Jerzan Newton from Illinois.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yep.
Johnny
He
Newton.
was talking about. Yeah, he was talking about Dan Campbell F's with me. I F with. But
Yeah,
that made me go watch his highlight tape. I mean, dude's not like talking about nasty player.
I'm
Put
sure
him and Hush
in
together.
Michigan last
Yeah,
year, he was
yeah.
that. Yeah, it was tough sled after Blake went down to
And
get
there
anything there.
and that Illinois program has produced some good defensive players.
Kirby,
Yeah,
Witherspoon.
Kirby, Witherspoon. Yeah, so whatever they had going on around them years, they got
Yeah,
some NFL guys in there. Uh,
yeah,
didn't get many wins out of it, but I think, but
right.
he's a guy that stands out. Uh, a guy that I didn't only pick him just because of the name, but I remember him at Rutgers. Been seeing it pop up. Watched a little bit of his highlight tape with Max Melton from Rutgers. That's
Yeah,
another corner that they're
yep.
saying could be there. In that 61-73 pick. He was the number one corner at Rutgers. They've turned that program around. They seem to
Yeah,
be pretty tough.
physical,
Obviously,
tough
he
on
played us.
defense.
He had to play Ohio. He's been around the block. Penn State.
Yeah,
He's played some NFL guys. Held his own.
I agree.
Uh, and then just a couple other guys. The inside outside lineman that you talked about for or sorry, in guard/center would be that Zach Frazier guy from West Virginia. We just talked about before we hopped on. Somebody like that. He seems to be mean as hell. Can play
It's
guard.
tough.
Can play center.
Yeah.
Former wrestling all state All American. So guy that clearly physical, good with his hands. Somebody
Hmm.
like that, I wouldn't be mad at if you went and shirt up that line because that is the lifeblood of our team.
For
If
sure.
he is good, and we rolling with him, but I would hate to see what golf looks like if he's running for his life without Ragnow there. If he'd be a little more happy feet. I'd hate to see what Montgomery looks like without a good old line. Back to the
Right.
Chicago case. I'd hate to see what
So
Gibbs
yeah,
looks like without a good
PTSD.
line. Yeah.
Be like,
Oh,
not again.
no. Yeah. Back to 3.8 yards of carry. Yeah. No. But no, I agree with you. That's kind of our recipe for who we are. Back to the grit. Grit is formed with, like you said, the trenches and defense.
Hmm.
Um, and I think staying true to who we are and just doubling down on that.
Yeah.
Take it back to, and I'm not comparing them, whatever. We hate the Cowboys, but I take it back to when the Cowboys for like 5 straight years went offensive line and got the best offensive line in the game, and then turn around and when he got Zeke Elliott and he rushed for
Come back.
1,500 yards for 3 straight years. That old line
Yeah.
just started falling apart. And had them on, a good little run for some years there. So I think that's kind of the recipe to keep everything simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Let's run the ball,
For
play
sure.
action. Yeah.
You speak my language. Like, I think the way that, I just think that's watched it happen in college with Michigan and even last year, controlling the clock. You getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust every time. Your possessions are going to be longer
Yeah.
than most teams you're going to play against. And yeah, so I could definitely see
So
that.
we don't know the money situation, but there's rumors that we might give up the 29th pick for the Darius Sneed.
Yeah.
Would you open for a straight swap like that? Or
Um,
you rather try to go get a young gun?
I don't know, man. For me, it's like weren't that far off to where I don't think we need to swing for the fences like that. I wouldn't hate it, you know what I'm saying? Can we find a guy, in the draft? Like, can we get lucky and get Quinion Mitchell? Kind of sucks that free agency comes before, the draft, but I just don't know if we need to like start giving up capital and then pay a guy 80 mil. But, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to it, I guess. I think I just kind of like what we've done to where it's like we have a couple complementary pieces, had some injuries, last year, obviously on defense that kind of derailed us from that standpoint. But yeah, I guess I wouldn't hate it either way, but I think I'd like to, if we could, get a younger guy, in the draft
Yeah,
that so what you
I
think?
I tend to agree with you, but the safety valve, the safety net of we know what this guy is.
Yeah, for
Lockdown
sure.
corner, you know, one of the better ones in the game. No questions asked. It's not a question mark of hey, can Quinion Mitchell, can he transition into the NFL?
For
Like
sure.
all that's out of the window. We already know what we got. So I
Yeah.
kind of like that aspect of it, but we do we are seem to be drafting well. So if they like one of the younger guys better and he's cheaper, I'm not mad at that. But I do think you have to. I don't want to say our window is closing, but you have to hit the window while it's open. And I think
Hmm.
we seen how close we can get last year, and so I just think maybe a few extra moves we could have maybe inched that above. You wouldn't have,
Yeah.
you go get Chase Young or you go get Sweat. Maybe we make another play or two throughout that last game to get us there. So, I think this is kind of when you do have to figure out, all right, are we playing for the future or are we going for it?
Right. Because I think the only thing that has me, well, I'm all for it. I think I just want to see what kind of tag they gave him. It's not exclusive. So I don't know if like I know one of them you have to like give up like a specific type of capital to like get him if he's already been tagged. So I don't know if like we won't know until next week if the ship's like sailed or not. But it surprised me because they signed back Mosley. So it's like you got Mosley, you got Sutton, where would this guy, where would they kind of put him? I guess would be my question. Like
Right.
I guess it's kind of like it was kind of odd to like sign. I just thought that Mosley signing was a little bit strange. So that almost kind of told me that we might just be trying to draft a corner, or maybe even getting like Xavier Howard, from the Dolphins that just got released. There's a couple other corners that got released from some of these other NFL teams that maybe they'll inquire about for like a nicer, cheaper deal, something
Right.
like that too.
No, that's true. That's true.
So yeah,
This is the
I
thing.
mean, Sneed, I mean, that'd
No,
be,
I
I
don't think
mean,
it's a bad thing. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that. But this is the one thing that got me to to really go for it
yeah.
is do you remember what oh my god, I can't even think of the name right now. Amari, no, who was it? Who went off on us on the Cowboys? Amari Cooper?
Oh, CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb. Sure. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb went off. Justin Jefferson went off. Yeah,
Yes.
so all
Lincoln Taylor.
right, so
Sutton.
listen to this. Ladarius Sneed in 2023, he gave up 2 catches for 32 yards to Calvin Ridley, 1 catch for 4 yards to DJ Moore, 3 catches, 24 yards to Wilson,
Yeah.
2 catches, 14 yards to Justin Jefferson, and no yards given up to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Real
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, I agree that if the money is somewhat right, but I think also you gotta go ahead and say, all right, we do got Justin Jefferson in our conference,
For
and we're gonna
sure.
have to see him to get through. We're gonna have to play
Good
some,
point.
we have to play some receivers to get to where we want to go.
For sure.
So I'm not that mad at it.
Yeah.
But I'm just interested to see what they'll do because I think we that 29th pick is interesting because it's
It's
a lot of people
kind of
probably
like
depending on who depending on, yeah, it's kind of a weird spot.
it's like gray area. It's like no man's land. Like you
I
can
agree,
probably
but you also could be sitting there and let's say I don't know Drake May falls, you could be
right
sitting there and somebody could come calling trying to give you a load for
trade
to move
back.
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because I
So
love if
I
we
think it
could.
might be one of them game day decisions where if we're sitting there, we try to see who's falling and not, and maybe try to make a
Yeah.
deal that way.
Now, Campus Martius won't like that, but if we can get an extra two, an extra
Yeah.
three, and give up that one, I don't hate it at all. So yeah, and then one thing too, I think, because like it makes you kind of think of what the Rams did a couple years ago, like, and they ended up getting Jalen Ramsey like closer to like the start of the season, and they just ended up trading for Von Miller, like
Yep.
middle of the season. So we also kind of have that window too, to where it's like if we don't address the need to where we think we need to right now, but we fast forward to like week 7, 8, and we're like 5-2, and things are looking good. Like we also kind of have that where we could maybe grab
Right.
somebody, middle of the season as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting.
Right. Knock on wood for us, but yes, so and so goes down. Like, all right, yeah, now we got to address this,
Yeah,
or hey, like
or it's like let's just bolster,
that
let's
that
add another D
61st pick
lineman.
is a beast. He got that, Max Melton is
Yeah,
he's got that corner a lot. Now we just need to figure out this, like wait,
right.
figure out
Or
what
it's
we
like,
got and how it played out.
yeah, where it's like, hey, let's just add. I mean, hell, the Eagles added like, Ndamukong Suh week
Yeah.
13. You know what I'm saying? It's like maybe like add like kind of like bolstering a part of the secondary, whether that's like corner or like like a secondary or like a D line. I'd be cool with that. But yeah, next week it's gonna be different because I feel like this will
It is.
be first time. You don't usually see a lot of attention around free agency from Detroit, and I think we're going to be one of those teams to like look for. Especially, I mean, you got guys like Christian Wilkins from the Dolphins that I'm not saying I want to pay any of these guys all this money they're asking for, but you know some of these guys might just want like a 1 year deal and just maybe take like a little bit of a pay cut just because they think we got what it takes to get over the hump. So
Mm.
I'll be real curious to see what kind of pieces we add, who we resign, who gets released or cut. Because yeah, it would be nice to get like a solid like you know, Pro Bowler or two, or like a veteran, like above average starter in there to just kind of bolster some things. We are pretty young
Yeah.
on defense
Stabilize
too.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so get some more like depth. Guys like, no disrespect to like Kaminsky, some of the other guys in that D line, they just weren't giving no push last year. So I think we got to like,
Yeah.
give this new D line coach from the Titans a little bit more to work with
Right.
overall.
And I would love to see him. We don't even know what Hutch is when he's getting
Yeah,
triple team. Like what?
we've seen how
I'm
hard. Like,
blanking, but like what when Houston came back? I mean, you see night and day. If you put anything
yes,
on the opposite side of him, he wrecks havoc. When you let them go 3 versus 1, and then like nothing happens. But
quarterbacks
if you
back
put
there,
anybody else on the other side of him that's worth talking about, he
right?
wrecks havoc all game. So I think we can't be the only one seeing. Let's get him help, and then he is pushing 20 sacks in a season, 15 for sure. Yeah,
All pro talk for sure. I'm with you there. Yeah, I think biggest thing will just be trenches, just that defense. As long as they address those needs, I think offense gonna take care of itself. And maybe pick up like an old lineman or two in free agency. Maybe another weapon if they don't bring back Reynolds or some of these other receivers. But I think we're in a good position where we don't need to overdo it. Don't need to overthink it.
yeah,
At this point, I don't think we got to swing for the fence. I think if we can like hit a double, I think like that'll be like prime.
yeah,
Because I think sometimes too, you sign some of these bigger players and like they just kind of be like, well, got the bag. And
yeah.
then I
Like,
feel
you put
like
the
a
work in. Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of them guys, they either get like cut, traded like a year or two down the road to where, I like what we got going right now. But yeah, if we can get our hands on Snead and if the deal makes sense and all that, I'm all for it too.
right. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm be excited to see next week once a little more rumors come out. I mean, NFL never sleeps. I mean, it had like a week or
Right.
two that was down, and then it's right back to it. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, this all heat up soon. I know there'll be some rumors about free agency, and then we'll start to that draft will heat up a little more deals getting made. I mean, it's quickly. I mean, we soon it's going to be JJ first pick in the draft. How fast he's moving up the
Right.
chart. So I think,
Yeah. I already heard
yeah,
like top five, like two different places. So I'm like, okay.
right, yeah,
He's
no,
already
for
jumping
sure,
Drake May.
yeah. No, you got anything else for the peoples?
Oh, that's all I got. We'll be back with y'all next week for hopefully, yeah, some exciting free agency news from the Lions.
Yes, sir. Peace.